Welcome to part one of my Millennium Falcon restoration project. I picked up this Millennium Falcon recently at a flea market, and I paid £10 for it, and it came with quite a few parts. A few little bits are missing and a few bits are damaged, so it needs a fair amount of work to get it back sort of into working order. Overall though, it is pretty good, so it's a good candidate for a restoration project. As you can see from the outside, it looks fairly complete. There's bits of the cockpit are missing, which is fairly common because they easily sort of snapped off inside there. I've got bits of the top cannon, but these are broken. I've got parts of the inner sort of gunner chair, also got the ramp, and actually if I open up the Falcon, you'll see inside it came with the cargo hatch cover and also the table, and it's got all of its legs and bits, and even the inner cardboard part of the ship is in pretty fine condition. So first thing that I need to do for this is to take it apart and clean it. It's absolutely filthy. I would say this is a well-loved toy. You can see here there is dirt everywhere. It is properly dirty. It's been played with in the garden, I would guess, because there's so much sort of mud in all of these sort of small crevices and that. So first thing to do is I'm going to take it all apart, actually unscrew everything so that I can clean each individual bit sort of independently. The main reason I want to do that is because the inner cardboard section that goes inside the Falcon is in actually reasonable condition, and I don't want to get this damaged with water. Most of the stickers are pretty rough, so I'm not going to worry too much about those, but this inner cardboard bit I think is good enough to save. So let's unscrew this and we'll get it all into pieces ready for cleaning. Taking apart the Falcon is a pretty straightforward job. There are just lots and lots of screws that you have to unscrew. These are all located on the bottom, so just use a Phillips screwdriver to unscrew them, and the ship will come apart. Some of them are harder to get into than others because they're right up inside the Falcon, but it is an easy enough job, so just get unscrewing and the ship will come apart. As you take the Falcon apart, the panels on the back and around the edge of the Falcon come out individually, so you can remove these separately, and again each one of these can be cleaned individually. Okay, so here we have the Falcon in pieces. As you can see, the cardboard insert is actually in reasonable condition. It does have a few bits of water damage, so this has obviously been played with outdoors or in the bath at some point, but it's actually pretty good condition considering how old it is and how rough the rest of the ship looks, so that's good and salvageable. There's also a couple of other little sort of glitches I noticed now while taking this apart. The front landing gear has taken a battering at some point, and one of the sides of it is broken there, but that should be easily repairable, so I'm going to take that off and I'll fix that after I've cleaned it. Also we can now take the motor off. This is the motor that makes the sort of whining laser type noise. The motor looks in reasonable condition. I haven't actually tried it yet, but we'll remove this before we do the cleaning just so it doesn't get wet. So right, let's go on ahead and give this a good clean. To clean the ship, I'm just going to use a hot soapy water, so I'm just going to use some kitchen sort of detergent, and then use various brushes and things to scrub out the really filthy areas. I find an old toothbrush to be particularly good for getting into some of the nooks and crannies on these ships. It means that you can really sort of scrub in it and get the grit and grime out of it with ease. Giving a clean like this should take 90% of the grime off, and any other marks I'll remove using some other tricks. So here we have the Falcon back from being cleaned, and it looks a whole lot better. All the grime is gone, and it looks pretty good actually. There's a few little stains on it which I'm not going to bother removing because these are sort of marks in the plastic. I don't think I'll make them look any better, and there's a few little sort of bits of residue where stickers have been left, but I would use a bit of lighter fluid to remove this, or actually even if you just scratch it a bit with your nail, they do come off, so they just take a little bit of extra work there. So the first thing to repair on this was the landing gear that you use as a handle. This is the one that's sort of held at the front of the ship. This actually has a couple of bits of damage, so let's deal with one thing at a time. The handle part has one of these sort of bits of detail snapped and is bent. It's also cracked apart in the middle. Should be a peg that holds that together. The cracking apart I can glue. This peg here I'm going to drop in boiling water to heat it up, and then I'm going to bend it back to the right shape, and then I will glue it back in place. So let's get the kettle on. So using the same technique I would to remove the heads of Star Wars figures, using the boil and pop technique, I'm just going to put some freshly boiled water in a mug here, and then dunk the leg into this. This will soften the plastic so that I should be able to bend back the damaged part of it without it snapping. You just need to leave it in there for sort of 10 to 30 seconds just to warm up enough. If you do this without heating it up, the liability of the plastic snapping is quite high. Warming it up like this, it should be malleable enough that I can just bend it using a pair of pliers. Okay, so that's been in there for about 30 seconds now. So I'll just take that out, just damp it down on this tea towel, and now using these pliers I can just gently bend this plastic until it's back into the right shape, as you can see there. So that's not bad. There's also a slight bend on the bit behind, so I'm just going to push that in place as well. Actually, I'll do that with my finger because it's slightly easier. And there we have it, it's now straight again, so all I need to do is to glue the bottom bit in place, and that should be fine. So let's dry this off and we'll get the gluing done. To glue this back together, I'm just going to use some super glue. Other glues are perfectly acceptable, but this one, the bottle I've got it in, has quite a good sort of applicator, so I should be able to easily just squeeze that under this sort of peg here. Just a small blob like that should do. Move it back into place and then press as you normally would. There you go, and that feels pretty sturdy. That's as good as fix as I can do on that. Anything else is just going to be a bit over the top. To fix this brake on the top here, it's just a peg has snapped inside. The bottom peg seems fine. It's actually pretty sturdily held together from sort of halfway down. So again, I'm just going to open this up as wide as I can, and I will squeeze some super glue inside it, and that should do the job. It's a little bit more awkward, this one, because you can't get the figure apart. That should be enough glue in there. Now if I just squeeze it together and hold it, hopefully that will stick solidly. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. The good thing with super glue is you can tell instantly if it's glued. So yeah, that's a pretty good fix. That's now nice and sturdy again, ready for being reattached to the Falcon. The next area that needs fixing is the place where the leg handle part of the Falcon joins on to the inner part. One of the screw pegs had snapped off. It's obviously been hit at some point, so first thing to do is to glue that back in place just using some super glue. So here we have some super glue. Just put a little bit of that on the top there, and then glue the peg back in place. On its own, the glue is not going to be enough to make a sort of sturdy hold of that, especially as this is where you hold the Falcon using the front leg. So this is the original screw that was used. What I'm going to do is replace it with a longer screw. I'm actually going to trim this down so it's not quite as long as that, but maybe about another centimetre. And then when I screw that in, it will screw past the broken part of the peg and go into the stronger bit underneath. So I just need to chop that slightly shorter. So just measure it against the original screw there, and then I'm just going to, as you can see here, measure the two, and then just cut the end off the slightly longer screw. So it needs to be about that length, like that. There we go. Right, now I can use this longer screw to screw this all in place. So here we have the front foot in place. I just put the bracket that sits over the top like that. I'm going to use the original short screw on this front side, as that is unbroken, so I can screw that good and tight down, and I'm going to use the new longer screw on this side here. Just turn this round here, so I can screw that in, and that should go past the break in the plastic and screw into the stronger bit of plastic that wasn't broken at the bottom. we go, that's now good and tight, and the leg is again once held in place. So if I show you at the bottom, the leg now flips down nicely and is good and sturdy, so you should be able to hold the Falcon back like it should have been originally. So that's the end of part 1 of my Falcon restoration. Check back soon to see part 2, and thanks for watching.